there's advantages and disadvantages to doing something within a big company. We knew from the start that there were disadvantages and that obviously, they at the end of the day own that project. That Web3 just totally solves this problem, right? Memberships and relationships, instead of being stored by one gated platform that controls access to those relationships through an API or something, I did build a couple smart contracts just so I kind of knew what I was talking about and just to get my hands dirty. Digital representations of your things are useful and they're common.
GM, welcome to another episode of the Board Founders Show. If you would like to hang out with me, with Ben, and with hundreds of other founders, you can join the Board Founders Club at boardfoundersclub.com. And today with me, Ben Turtel, the founder and CEO of Kazm.xyz, data-driven CRM for Web3. Previously, he founded Rivet, an AI-powered reading app for kids within Area 120, and spent 6+ years building applied machine learning solutions at Google. He advises startups through the Garage at Northwestern and writes about philosophy, technology, and Web3. Ben, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. So I would like to start with a few questions about machine learning. We are talking about Web3 a lot, but AI is also such an interesting topic, and you have a lot of in common with AI and machine learning. So when and how did you start? When did you go into machine learning?
Yeah, so in undergrad, I basically had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. Yeah. So I studied math and philosophy, which I thought were both just broad enough skill sets that then I could use that to move into whatever was useful. I started out doing like risk management consulting for big banks. And I realized I really didn't like the consulting. I didn't really like finance, but I liked the mathematical modeling a lot. And I liked the software piece a lot. So I actually went back to grad school where I studied scientific computing. And scientific computing is a little different. It typically focuses on things like physical systems or like engineering simulations. But I very quickly gravitated towards machine learning and big data. So that's where I focused. I quickly got I did a couple internships and got my hands dirty with it. And I really loved it. And then I landed the job at Google where I was doing applied machine learning for a couple of years.
What's your current state? What's your view on the current state of AI? Because we have a lot of breakthroughs like with GPT-3 and other natural language models. What's your take on this? Do you follow the the news?
Yes, no, totally. And I've been pretty obsessed with ChatGPT. I think it's incredible. I've been totally blown away by it. We write a lot of blog content, so I've been fooling around with like giving it an outline and getting a first draft. And it's normally not good enough that you want to publish that first draft, but it's pretty good. Like you could publish it. I don't know if anyone would notice if we published it. We just did a big database migration. So we were like, we have to write all these queries and rewrite them for the new database structure. And we had to write these pipelines to map from one database structure to another. So I was like, maybe for all these different tables, like maybe we can just give this to ChatGPT and see if it can spit out the new database structure and the new pipelines for us. I told my CTO to give that a shot, and it was amazing. It totally understood the different requirements for the different database structures. It totally spit out these new queries. It spit out a script for migrating from one to the other, and that's pretty incredible. So the ability for this to let people who aren't that technical or just a little bit technical, or even for engineers to get rid of the blank page and start with, pretty good scripts or pieces of code that are functional, I just think is amazing. And I'm really impressed by it.
Oh yeah, sounds really impressive. So have you been playing with it? What was the most interesting thing that you managed to do with ChatGPT?
Well, I mean, I think the coding is pretty incredible. So the ability to have it write code was really impressive to me. Throughout the day, there are things that I'm quickly trying to learn about, or just Googling stuff. And instead I'll go to ChatGPT and be like, maybe ChatGPT could just summarize this this whole thing for me really quickly, and it often does a pretty good job.
Yeah.
I think the most interesting thing was I was kind of trying to break it to see where its rough edges were. So I tried to get it to spit out images, making characters. I mean, like character-based images
Yeah.
of different things, and it just produced some pretty weird results where it just has infinite like rows of random characters after a certain point, and I found that fascinating because like why does it think about things that way? But yeah, I mean, I've been having a lot of fun with it.
Yeah. So you worked at Google on AI, machine learning, and data science. So how was the environment in Google, and how was it difficult to get into Google?
I was surprised that I got into Google. I wasn't really a software engineer when I applied to Google. Coming out of grad school, I was more of a math guy, and I knew a little bit of Python for the purposes of like doing data science and all that, but I didn't really know anything about engineering or even like servers or.
So you're like self-taught engineer?
Yeah, self-taught, and then like I had classes where we learned specific skills. Like we used a lot of MATLAB more than anything else.
Yeah.
Right. But I had a call with a Google recruiter. They told me what the interview process was like, and it was all like based on these algorithmic kind of interviews. And I was like, I have no experience with that, so why don't you give me like a month or two to go like do some practice? And I spent a ton of time on like HackerRank, and there's amazing websites for just practicing these skills. And I think I got lucky and I got in.
And how was the time in Google? What's the vibe inside the big tech company such as Google?
I think it's a great place to start your career. Google gets a lot of criticism these days. Big tech generally gets a lot of criticism these days, but they really invest in you as an employee. Like I learned so much working there. They really let you take a ton of time when you join. Like I think they really don't expect you to deliver value back in any real way for the first 6 to 12 months of your employment there. You spend a ton of time just doing classes, learning about the different technologies. If you want to take 2 weeks to go do a training course with different machine learning programs that they offer internally, they'll support you there. So I think it's a great place to start your career. I think if you want to launch things and get things done, if you're the kind of person that wants to start a startup, then it gets a little frustrating after you've been there a little while, because it's definitely harder to have impact, and like it's hard to move fast. There's a lot of red tape. There's a lot of politics. But I think that's probably not unique to Google. That's probably just any big corporation.
And what did you work on in Google, if you can say say what you can say? You warned me that some stuff is disclosed, I guess, but maybe you can tell us a bit.
Yeah, I focus on applied machine learning solutions.
What is applied machine learning, if you can describe?
Yeah, so instead of like I wasn't typically working on like new machine learning algorithms, or even like taking no machine learning algorithms and building them into new systems or new libraries. I was taking those tools and taking like machine learning technology that was built internally by other teams and applying it to real world problems. So I was part of this group called Corp-Eng Machine Learning early on. So I'd work with different internal products, and if they had a data problem, we would figure out what's a good way we could use machine learning to attack that solution, to create a solution.
Great. Do you think about AGI, artificial general intelligence, and did you talk with your colleagues at Google about this topic?
Yeah, I definitely think about it a lot, especially now with this ChatGPT stuff, which is blowing my mind. But I didn't
scary
really
good. Yeah.
Huh?
It's scary good.
It's
like
scary good.
Elon wrote on Twitter.
Totally. We didn't talk about it too much internally. I'm sure there were other people in other groups talking about it more internally. They probably have whole teams focused on that and on security. I wasn't super involved in that. We were often, when you're in the nitty gritty of it, you're much more frustrated that the machine learning is so dumb and that it can't figure out how to learn something that's so obvious to humans trying to solve a problem. So yeah, I think we
Yeah.
were less focused on that at the time.
Okay. What's area 120? It's 120 or 120?
Yeah,
How do you
Area
say?
120. It's
Area
Google's
120.
in-house.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Google's in-house incubator. So basically, at least when I was there, it might have changed a bit since then. As an employee, you can apply with an idea, kind of like a YC within Google is the way they branded it at the time. And you
Interesting.
go through a few rounds of pitching your idea. And if you get in, you get to work full time on this idea with funding from Google internally. So it's like building a startup internally to Google. Yeah, and it's kind of
So they take a cut, like
well, they technically
percentage.
own the whole thing,
Oh,
but
they own the whole thing.
yeah, so they had programs where you would get benefits for doing well in the program. And I'm not sure how much I'm allowed to
All
say
right.
about exactly how that works,
Yeah.
and I think they've changed it since, but that was the idea.
Okay. So you applied to area 120, yeah, and you pitch your idea, yeah, and it was Rivet, yeah, this app.
Yeah, that's right. It started a little broader than Rivet.
Okay.
So we originally called it Study Buddy, and the idea was more generally using AI to help kids learn and to help kids have a more effective learning experience in their early years of school. Once we got into the program and we started digging into like what should our MVP be, what's like the right first use case, that's when we started comparing like, okay, where can we have the most impact with a solution here? And a lot of things that kids learn are very specific. Like early on, if you look at like the math curriculum, they learn something for 1 month and something totally different the next month. It's harder to have like this long-term impact with a single product. When we looked at reading, there was kind of nothing that really compared to the impact you can have with reading. So for one thing, kids are just practicing reading every single night of their early years at school for multiple years. There's nothing else that they really practice every single night the same thing the same way as reading. And it's also more correlated with outcomes than almost anything else. So, at least in the US, the outcomes for reading education are really, really bad. Something like 65% of fourth graders are below proficient.
Hmm.
And, a huge part of the adult population actually really can't even read at all. And there's this critical timeline where an intervention can actually make a big difference. So there's a lot of other kinds of problems where it's hard to know what the right intervention is and if that makes a big difference, right? With reading, if you can intervene and help a kid get proficient at reading before the end of third grade, that has a huge impact on the rest of their educational career, like their chances of dropping out of high school, chance of getting to college, having a good job. And a part of the reason for that is that until third grade, you're really learning to read. And then after third grade, you're really reading to learn. Like every other
Yeah.
class will
Yeah.
expect that you can read to keep up and you can learn the chapters on your own a little bit. So if you fall behind at that point in reading, you're going to have a tough time and it's really easy to get left behind. So that's where we thought we could have an impact. We realized that a lot of kids in the US grow up in households where there aren't any books at all, never mind like an appropriate book for a kid at that stage at their reading level. And many kids don't have a reading partner at home. So they might not have parents that speak English fluently or that are good readers themselves or just have the time to practice reading with them every day. So we thought one thing we could do is just create an app for high quality reading practice. So we had lots of books. We generated books. So we had thousands of books in the app. And then we would listen to the kids as they read out loud on the device and give them feedback on their reading. So we'd like highlight if they skip a word, or we tell them when they're missing parts of the word and how they could pronounce the word correctly. So it was like having a high quality reading practice
Yeah.
partner there all the time.
Yeah. Sounds amazing. And I want to take a step back. What pushed you towards building your own project? You had a great job at great company. I think the salary was really good, and the perspectives also. Yeah. So what pushed you towards entrepreneurship, so to speak?
Yeah, well, I think that's one of the great things about a program like Area 120 at Google, honestly. It's hard to get it right. Like a lot of companies try to do these programs and they often fail because it's hard to have the spirit of a startup within a big company, right? But The nice thing about doing Area 120 is I didn't need to leave my job, and I still got a great salary, and I got to build this
Oh,
product
okay.
from the ground up like
Yeah.
the way that we wanted to. We really made all the product decisions. We, obviously had to pitch them for funding, and they had limits on what we can do, but we had a lot of independence in a way you really don't get to do in a big company. So it was almost like a stepping stone to being a real startup.
So you gathered a team from other Googlers there?
Yeah, that's right. So I started Rivet with my co-founder at the time, Christy Seymour, and then we put together a team. We hired other internal engineers and a couple product folks from within Google to build a team.
Okay, but can you bring people out from outside of Google or not?
There are teams that did it. It's not recommended typically, I think, because you have to go, like we never did it. I think they have to get through the Google interview process in addition to getting through your interview process. So it's just so much harder than just finding an internal engineer that's interested in switching over to Area 120.
Okay, so what happened to Rivet? What was the story there?
Well, it was a really successful product. We grew it to be the most widely used reading app for kids worldwide within a year of launch. We eventually handed off to the Google Assistant. So typically, like, a good thing is for an Area 120 project to move internally and to be taken over by a bigger organization. I'm not sure where things stand with that now since I'm not at Google anymore, but I think they had plans for it, which it'd be wonderful to see it back out in the world.
Okay, so yeah, you started the founder's journey there, but actually the project wasn't yours. Yeah, does it made you mad or a bit like was
No.
it a bit disturbing because you work on the project, you try. Okay, you have your salary and your like job there, but still you're creating something, and then it's you knew from the beginning. Yeah, what was the deal?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the
How
deal,
did it make you
right?
feel?
Like, it was definitely frustrating when we had a product that was ours to not be able to do whatever we want with it, or not to be able to run it the way we were. We felt like it was our baby, just like all founders feel like that about their projects. But there's advantages and disadvantages to doing something within a big company. We knew from the start that there were disadvantages, and that obviously, they at the end of the day own that project. So if anything, it was an amazing learning experience, and I think it's awesome that they have programs like that, especially for people who can't just go off on their own and maybe can't take the career risks that are involved with starting a startup independently. It taught me a lot about myself. It taught me that, like, I love doing this startup thing. I love having that control over the product and to iterate fast, move fast with less red tape. And at the end of it, it was pretty clear that I wanted to go and start a real startup. And actually, my lead engineer from that project, Danny Franklin, is now my co-founder. So we've worked together for over 6 years. We built Rivet together, and now he's my co-founder. So I think it struck him the same way.
Yeah, it's great. So how did you get into the Web3 rabbit hole?
Yeah, so before we came into Web3, my co-founder and I were building in the community space for quite some time. And a big
after Rivet, after leaving Google,
yeah, that's right. We left Google and we were kind of feeling out different opportunities for startups. And the first couple of things we built were in the community space, but not in Web3 yet. And one big pain point for community is in Web2, right, is finding the perfect platform, because switching costs are really high, right? So you have like different kinds of communities. If you have a community where you really want engagement on the digital platforms, they're very worried about, like, okay, do we do this as a Facebook group, or do we start like in a Geneva space, or are we just going to have everyone engage on Twitter and use spaces? It's really hard because you have to kind of pick one. Moving people from one platform to another once you pick is really difficult. And then you have other kinds of communities, right? Like you have podcasters like yourself, or we have different YouTubers where, like, typically you'll follow someone on Twitter and you'll watch their videos on YouTube, and maybe you're in their Discord and you have like 10 different touch points with certain communities and they have no idea who you are, right? You're not the same person across all those different platforms to them. Yeah. So they don't even know who their super fans are, which is another big pain point. So it was kind of obvious to us when we saw the NFT space take off that Web3 just totally solves this problem, right? Memberships and relationships, instead of being stored by one gated platform that controls access to those relationships through an API or something, they're on chain. They're not gated by any centralized players. So anyone can build on top of that, on top of those relationships. You can imagine a whole plethora of niche token gated experiences that instantly recognize your membership and say, give me access to the content for the creators whose tokens I hold, and put me in the right chat groups right away, or give me access to certain videos, or put me into certain discounts, or get me certain access to event tickets or whatever based on what's in my wallet. And now suddenly, as a community, you can build an experience using thousands of different platforms, since they all recognize the membership that's stored on chain, and that's not a problem anymore. And I think that's really powerful. It's going to open up a lot of opportunities.
Yeah, so you saw this opportunity, but did you like went into the crypto world, buy some coins or buy Bitcoin before? What's the story there?
Yeah, so I've been, in terms of just holding cryptocurrencies or NFTs, I've been holding cryptocurrency for a long time, for a couple of years. Not like, I wasn't like super long. So I was familiar in that sense, but I was less familiar like from an engineering perspective of building things on chain or using Solidity, or what it would be like to actually start a startup within Web3. And at some point, we decided to kind of pivot into Web3, and we knew we were going to pivot into Web3. We didn't know exactly what we were going to do yet. We just took a month and just learned. We just did tutorials. We built some random stuff, just for the two of us and for our team to kind of ramp up on the space.
So did you learn Solidity and write smart contracts?
Yeah. We I typically don't actually do a ton of the engineering on the team now, since as the CEO, I'm mostly talking to customers and in meetings. But yeah, at the time, I did build a couple smart contracts just so I kind of knew what I was talking about and just to get my hands dirty.
Do you miss programming? Because
Totally.
your journey is like quite similar to mine. I've been a developer since I was like 8 or 9 years old, and 5 years ago I switched to the founder role. I was programming for like, I don't know, 3 years after that, but like last 2 years it's all the CEO stuff and and media, like this podcast, for example. Do you miss the programming?
Yeah, I miss it a ton, and I still do some. So when it really makes sense, if I'm the most qualified person on the team to do something, so when we build machine learning models or certain kinds of data pipelines, I'll step in and do that, and I love it. Like, there's a kind of depth that comes with spending all day solving a problem coding that you just don't get into the same headspace when you're in a meeting with someone else every hour, right? It's really hard to get there, and it's kind of almost meditative, and I love that. Like, just diving into a problem, not talking to anyone for like 8 hours. On the rare occasion I can do that, it's a nice break.
Yeah, the flow state. It's really magical. What's your take on like Web3 versus AI? Because those are like totally different technologies, but there are like maybe not wars, but arguments about Web3 AI is everything. Web3 is like bullshit, and other people like said say Web3 is a new internet, new world, but AI also is also important. But what's your take on this like argument? Because you are like you combined both sides of this war.
Yeah. No, I really think Web3 and AI are like two sides of the same coin, right? So like, AI makes it possible to do amazing things with data, and Web3 enables users to own their data and allows the creation of an ecosystem of startups and services that are built on top of that data, right? So I don't think we're going to be able to deliver the promises of AI to the average end user if they don't have their own data that they can feed to that AI to get like personalized experiences and custom solutions based on their particular situation, right? Which is represented with data, right? And then so there's a couple, I think, really key kind of examples here. So one is like the provenance of data, right? So as AI gets better and better at generating images or recordings or content generally, how are you going to know the data is real, right? You need some record of the provenance of that data, that this image actually came from a camera that took this picture on this day and this time, right? Blockchain is a great solution to that kind of problem, right? And that same record of where data comes from could be used when you're thinking about like training big machine learning models or big AI models and giving some compensation back to the people who built the training data sets for those models, right? So there's a couple nice synergies there. But I think the biggest piece is user-owned data allows you to have custom solutions to user problems, right? So I always think it's crazy that I can't like shop for supplements or for books based on who I follow on Twitter, right? Like I totally will buy books that my favorite influencers read or the supplements that the people I trust, the things that they recommend. Right?
Yeah.
That's how I want to buy my stuff because I don't trust most of what I'm going to come across on Amazon. I don't really care what some random, even famous book reviewer thinks of the book. I care about what the people that I follow, what they think of the book, right? Why can't I use that data to power my experiences on other platforms? Why can't I take the data about like what products I've bought online, whether through Amazon or other platforms, to to feed that into services that are built on top of that? Tell me what kind of add-ons I can get, or service providers near me that can come and help me fix those items that I've bought. There's so much you can do if you unlock the data that I'm building about myself online that are currently gated by these Web2 centralized platforms. If you give that to me and you let startups build solutions on top of that, I think pretty amazing things can happen there.
Yeah, a lot of like added value just opens up. I think you wrote a quite interesting piece on NFTs. Will NFTs change everything? So, what's your current take on NFTs? Because we are in the down market, the bear market, and people like the sentiment is really poor for NFTs because of the scams and actually no value in like 90+% of the projects. What's your take on NFTs?
Yeah, I mean, I think people maybe get too wrapped up in what NFTs are today instead of like what they could be, right? So I think that it makes sense that maybe people are getting less excited about like PFP NFTs or these collections of JPEGs that are NFTs, right? That's not really the promise of NFTs from my point of view. They're more of a proof of concept. But I think if you take a step back, it's pretty clear that like almost everything we care about is non-fungible, right? Almost every experience, everything about your tastes, all the items that you own, anything that you care about is non-fungible, right? And then digital representations of your things are useful and they're common. So just like we were just talking about, like Web2 platforms do this all the time. They model your tastes. They model the record of your purchases. They model what songs you're listening to. They model your history and your calendar, all these things to get more revenue out of you. But they own that data. It's not directly providing value to you unless it can get more revenue to that company that's gating that data now, right? So then the question to me is just, does decentralizing these representations, giving us control so we can do more with them, does that make them more useful to the end user? And I think the answer is like, obviously, yes, right? If I had access to all that data and there was a bunch of startups offering me services for ways I could use that data, I think that'd be way better for me than if it's just controlled by Amazon or Google or Spotify and it's gated only to the uses that they're allowing. So for me, it's pretty clear that NFTs are incredibly powerful. And I think we'll see a lot more of those use cases popping up in the next couple of years.
Yeah, and if we if the world would change to this like open permissionless internet, I think we will have a lot more data to feed to the machine learning models and actually to move AI to the next level. even like on-chain analysis of data using AI, and like a way to learn without any like boundaries.
Yeah, totally. I mean, so yeah, I think even if the AI itself is not on chain, like we don't need smart contracts that necessarily like have AI built in or something, right? But just so if you, like all these recent tools that are popping up that create magical portraits of people based on a couple pictures, right? Like Vana. Um,
Yeah, the
they need
stable
that
diffusion algorithms.
totally, totally, right? So to give a custom solution to a user, you need some input data, right? So for most people, it's easy to upload 8 pictures, and that's fine. But what if it's really complicated data and it's a lot of data, like everything in your calendar or all your, all your social data from the different social platforms, or data that's been collected by the architects who made your house? That's a lot harder for someone to go, or my health records, right? It takes a lot of work for me to go gather all that or download it and package it up in a nice way where I could feed it into some algorithm and get some interesting output. Um, but all that just making me, if I have access to that as NFTs, even then, if the AI is on a centralized server somewhere, I can now use that AI to get really custom solutions based on my stuff and my things in my life that I really can't do if I don't control that data. And that's what I think is really interesting there.
Yeah. So, what is Kazm? And how did it start? You told us the story, but what was when you realized that okay, we are building this tool right now?
Yeah. So Kazm is the data driven CRM for Web3. We empower Web3 communities with unified data, end to end attribution, and integrated tooling. We basically plug into every community touch point. So we plug into socials like Discord and Twitter. We plug into different blockchains, specific protocols, and smart contracts. And then even first party, like we have SDKs. So if you're a game or a DApp and you have user actions that are being taken in your app that aren't stored on chain, you can send us those as well. And we unify that with our data set as well. And we make this data useful to help optimize growth, to help you engage your members, and to help you automate workflows.
Okay, so yeah, thanks for the pitch. So how did it start? What was the process like? So you quit Google, you start working with the Web2 communities, and how did you wind up with Kazm? And what Kazm means? Does it mean something?
Yeah, it's a chasm like crossing the chasm. It's like,
Okay. Oh, with a K. Okay, right.
yeah, well, the the Kazm is how we spell it. That's not the way it's normally spelled, but for us, it's named after chasm, CHA.
Oh yeah. Like
Yeah,
crossing the chasm. Yeah. That's
yes,
the
exactly.
yeah. I've read the book. Okay. Yeah. So good name. And so how did it start? And what was the first steps? What were your first steps?
Yeah, so like I said, when we decided to pivot into Web3,
Yeah.
we didn't know exactly what we wanted to do, but we knew that what was amazing to us about Web3 is this new open database, right? That's what blockchains basically are. They're a big community-owned database, basically.
And you were like two co-founders. Yeah.
Yeah,
CEO, CTO, and
well, actually, this is when we pivoted into Web3. So we actually had a couple more team members, but we weren't
all right.
as big as we are now. So we took the whole team along with us to spend some time learning about Web3. They all knew we were pivoting. They all, we all were just getting our hands dirty and learning, but we knew that we made a great team. We worked well together. So we wanted to bring them along for whatever we were going to do next.
So when was it? When was it? It was like
So
2 years ago?
this was probably back in January when we decided to pivot from our old product, and we spent some
This
time.
year?
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
2022, 22.
Yeah, that's right.
All right.
So, we knew we were, me and Danny both are data guys. We have a big experience working with data and doing machine learning and all that. So we knew we wanted to do something with data. We weren't sure exactly what it was. So we spent some time getting our hands dirty in Web3. And then we spent a lot of time interviewing different communities and different projects. And we're just like, what are your pain points? What are you struggling with? How are you doing different things to engage your members and to grow? And we realized that they were just struggling to even know kind of who their members were. But you're in Discord, you're talking to someone, you don't know if they're a spammer or a bot, or if this is actually like a VIP holder who has 50,000 followers on Twitter, can really help you promote, or if this is like one of your rank and file members who maybe isn't huge, but they can help, they can help promote your brand, and they're really loyal to your brand. They didn't know this. And it was really hard to keep track of all this. And even if they had that data somewhere, like they knew this person on Twitter, is this person on Discord, is this wallet, it was sitting in like a spreadsheet somewhere. It wasn't usable for daily interactions. It wasn't powering, targeted messaging or segmentation. So we kind of just saw a big opportunity there to help them pull all their member data together and unify it and kind of make it useful so that they could do a better job building their communities.
Okay, and when did you onboard your first community onto Kazm?
Yeah,
or it's just it's in the process right now?
No, we launched our beta at the beginning of August.
Okay,
and we have hundreds of communities that have onboarded since then.
Awesome.
So officially onto the platform, the beginning of August is when we started onboarding the first couple of customers. But like, I'm a big fan of like launching and iterating just whatever you can to learn more about customers. So way before that, we were doing like custom one-off white labeled analysis for different customers. They would tell us some problem. We're like, okay, well, we'll go in, write a Python script and pull this together for you. Would that be useful? And then they would give us some feedback, and that iteration process helped us figure out what actually would be useful in this product.
And how big are those communities?
It's a pretty wide range. So we have small NFT communities that have less than 100 members, some that are really early, haven't even launched yet. And then we have some fairly big projects that we're working with tens of thousands of members.
Does it matter how big is the community? Is it does it matter for you? Is it harder or just the same? It does matter for the platform?
There are certain limitations with size. So for example, we have to scrape someone's Twitter followers and tell them things about all their Twitter followers from those profiles. So if you have like 10 million followers, we have to make sure we have the right resources allocated to that scraping process. And
okay, so for example, you take all the community members and you check their Twitter profiles and scrape the followers and like to create some kind of.
That's one of many things that we're doing. Yeah, it's just an example where like there is a bottleneck, right? Because there's the Twitter API. It's not a blockchain. We're limited by how quickly we can collect data through Twitter. So it matters a little bit, but for the most part, it doesn't matter that much in terms of like limitations on the products or data. The bigger question is the needs of the bigger projects are different than the needs of the smaller projects. So the needs of the smaller projects are very focused on like often pre-launch. They're often focused on what's driving engagement. They'll actually look at individual member profiles and see who these profiles are when they're interacting with them on Discord. They'll look at things like which tweets or which Discord messages are getting the most engagement. Whereas the bigger projects are more focused on like integrations and automating workflows. So we're offering things like webhooks or SDKs. They might have their own, not just landing pages, but actually dApps or things where people are signing in and they're collecting more sources of user data that they want to send us. So there's just kind of different needs across this spectrum. And these projects get more sophisticated as they grow.
Do you also handle support tickets and customer support for Web3 communities, or this is not the case for your project?
No, we don't support their support tickets. We obviously have our own support tickets. You can email us if you're having an issue with Kazm.
No. I mean, for example, can you gather all the customer support messages from within one community, like from Discord, from Telegram, from like chat on the website, and you know what I mean?
Like we gather all that data and we make it really easy to filter and segment based on that data. But we don't do anything specific for customer support ticketing today.
Yeah. I'm asking because today I interviewed a founder who is building the like customer support, like intercom for Web3. So I'm asking, is this the case also in your platform? But yeah, you're more like know your customer, like know your
Yeah,
community
totally.
platform. Yeah, it's
Yes.
cool. How do you fund the project?
So
Is
we
it
we raised some money last year. We raised a
okay?
bit over 2 million in a pre-seed round. Um,
Good timing because now
yeah,
it's harder.
that's true. And we were also very fortunate that like our early ideas that we were working on, um, they weren't. We didn't find like a huge market. We didn't find a venture scale thing that we were like satisfied with necessarily, but we did have some solid revenue from those early projects. So we still have most of our raised money in the bank, which is a nice place to be right now, given the state of the market.
So did you it was like a pre-seed round or seed round, or it was like angel investment? How did it look?
Yeah, no, we did a pre-seed round
Okay. From
a bit over a year
VCs.
ago.
Yeah.
There were some VCs, a lot of angels.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
And how did you make the connections with angels, with investors?
There were some that we just had connections with from like our previous work. So, Rich Miner, one of the founders of Android and of Google Ventures, he led the round, and he
Okay,
was
so you knew each other from Google.
yeah, that's right. And so, he was a big supporter of just us doing something um, generally, and so he kicked that off, and then we kind of just did a lot of networking. We got a handful of other great angels in there who have been hugely supportive of us throughout this process. And when we pivoted, we went to all of our investors. And we were like, "Do you like? Should we just return the money and start over, or do you want us to pivot and swing for the fences?" And they were all like, "Yeah, swing for the fences. We want to see you go do something else. We're investing in you as a team and not in one specific product." So the investors have been great, and yeah.
Cool. How big is the team right now? And what are the main roles in the team?
Yeah, so we have 8 total right now, full time. The two founders, me and Danny, and we've got Natalie, our head of growth and ops. We've got Rich, our UX designer, and we've got 3 engineers, and we have one full time test engineer that we just kind of hired a couple weeks ago.
So, what are the things that you struggle with the most right now? Is it engineering? Is it like getting more customers, or getting more funding, hiring?
Yeah, getting more customers is always that's always a
Yeah.
challenge, right? And getting the right customers. So getting in touch with the big brands that you think are making their way into the space can be a lot tougher than getting on more NFT communities. Um,
So,
we're always
who are the? Could you describe the perfect customer for Kazm right now that you'd like to land more and more of those kind of customers?
yeah, sure. So I mean, lately we've been finding a lot of traction with Web3 games, which I think
All
are a
right.
really good customer segment for us because they're more sophisticated than the NFT projects generally in terms of what they want to do with data. They typically have like marketing teams from Web2 who expect these tools that don't really exist yet in Web3.
Mm.
And so they're excited when we can do things like tie their campaigns to the quality of members that they actually bring in and help them optimize. This is the growth channel that's bringing in, the people that actually end up staking your token for 3 months. And they like that we can help segment their audience and help them target messages to specific groups of their audience, which are some things that maybe the smaller NFT communities aren't quite there yet necessarily. But yeah, I mean, I think we'd like to start working also with like the big luxury brands that are making their way into this space. Obviously, everyone wants to work with like a Nike or Adidas or a Starbucks or something like that. But you know, that takes some time.
Yeah. You're on the, I think, great path to achieve it. It's not easy. It's not easy, and hopefully the sentiment will be better in a few months, or hopefully less than a year, and the new communities will emerge. What are the next milestones for the project?
Yeah.
What are
So
you working on right now?
our big thing right now is that we're launching paid plans. So we've been doing a free beta since the beginning of August. So now we're going to try to start converting customers onto one of our paid plans, and we'll have different tiers, and we're always going to support a free tier. But we're hoping we can convert a good segment of the customers onto some paid plans. And then we're trying to deliver like a high class developer first experience. So kind of like the Stripe of customer data in Web3, right? So I want, if you're developing a product that has really personalized in-app experience based on all this data, that we're the best API to help you do that. If you want, to do targeted messaging based on your different segments or based on actions people are taking on chain, we're the best solution to do that. So we're really focused on like cleaning up our APIs, cleaning up documentation, rolling out more functionality that you can do from our SDKs. That's a big goal for us in the next couple of months.
So what is the pricing model? Because you said you're rolling out the paid plans. Is it like seed based or usage based? What's your take on it? Because it's a hard problem. Pricing is the really hard problem to solve.
Totally, and we might iterate on this a little bit. But right now, we're thinking pretty standard SaaS subscription model. So we're going to have plans that are free. If you're just like a single community manager, you can come on and use our product, and hopefully one day your community grows and you need more and you upgrade. We'll have plans, paid plans that start at $200 a month and go up to like $700 a month, depending on the functionality and the kinds of integrations that you need. And then we're going to have premium and like enterprise plans that are above that. And those are going to be custom pricing, at least for now. Part of the reason is we just have no idea for those custom plans, like how much data we're talking. So if you're using our SDKs to send us first party data, hypothetically, you could send us unlimited amounts of data, and we need to price that in based on the customer.
Yeah, that's a hard problem. How many customers do you have right now, like on the free beta?
Yeah, so we have a couple hundred that have onboarded. I'd say we have about 150 weekly active organizations right now.
What's the onboarding process like to your product? For example, I'm here with my Board Founders Club T-shirt. We have like more than 600 members in our community. A lot of chats on Discord, Twitter, and other media. So, for example, I want to use Kazm. What's my first step?
Yeah, that's a great T-shirt, by the way. We need to get some Kazm T-shirts to wear for occasions like this.
And you will be a member of Board Founders Club as well after the show, because each of the guests gets one of our NFTs from our treasury. We have some for marketing purposes, and we invite all the founders from the show. So maybe you will get the shirt like this as well.
Amazing. Yeah. Show me where I can get that. I'm all about it.
Yeah, because we are board founders, board with Web2, building the future.
Nice. Yeah, I'm excited to be a part of it.
Yeah.
So to onboard to Kazm, you can just go to Kazm.xyz. We have self onboarding now, so you can easily spin up a free account from there. And if you want access to more premium features or enterprise features, just reach out and we can walk you through that.
Okay, but what's my next step? So I like plug my Discord in and my NFT collection, and then your platform do the magic, or?
Yes, exactly. So it's a really straightforward process. You log onto the platform, you connect different accounts. So you sign to Twitter, you sign to Discord, you point us to whatever smart contracts across whichever chains you're on. We will automatically pull all the data related to your members, and we'll kind of build a big database for you, and we'll apply machine learning to automatically tag your members with different features and segmentation characteristics. So it's really easy for you to like segment and filter your audience based on these data sources that you're plugging in.
Yeah, but should I have like a connection between a particular member and his wallet, because you don't know that? Yeah, this is it's impossible to know, or maybe you
Yes.
have some some magic solution for that, but
There
it's
actually are some ways that you can detect these things, at least for a good amount of people, but we don't do that because there's a number of reasons why that's not a good space for us to be in. But there's a couple
okay,
different
like
ways that we
some not um not legal.
yeah, there's
Yeah,
some regulatory
okay,
GDPR
yeah,
isn't great about connecting data sources for users that they don't explicitly want to be connected. And then it's also
okay,
not
like tools like Hunter.io and yeah, I know.
sure, yeah. So we connect members in a couple different ways. If you've done a campaign like a pre-mint campaign or a Gleam campaign, you have a CSV. You probably have a CSV of like Twitter, Discord, Wallet, anything else about that member.
Yeah.
We can import pretty much any data source, and we'll link up those members, and then you'll see them all as a single row in our database. We also have SDKs. So if you're doing this within like your product, or if you have a script, because you have some logic that connects this, that's really easy to do. And you can tell us through the SDK which accounts belong to the same members. But then most commonly, what's been getting a lot of traction recently is we have these forms. And these forms are kind of like a replacement for like a pre-mint or a Gleam campaign, where it's totally embeddable and it's white labeled. So you pick all the colors, you pick all the styles, you can edit all the text, you can upload your own branding. You, from our platform, you pick like which social sign-ins you want to require the member when they're coming on board, and you can add other questions like where are you based, or how can you help the community, or which of these categories do you fit? Are you a builder? Are you an investor? Are you a gamer? What are you? You can take that, you can embed it in your landing page. If you don't have a landing page, we have a link and we'll host it for you. And that also has attribution tracking baked in. So those forms will also grab UTM parameters and tell you where that member came from when they went to fill out that form. So you basically create one of these forms, you share it with your community, and if they fill out that data, it'll automatically be updated in our database, and we'll basically build up a database of these connections for you and show you kind of who your members are and where they're coming from.
Yeah, it's really awesome. Yeah, we are doing this like with Airtable and some integrations, but it's painful, and you don't have the one source of truth about your community, and it's really a struggle. So I think we'll try Kazm to and we'll try to use the power of Kazm to make better community. Do you
Amazing.
have
Let's give it a shot.
yeah, of course. Do you have any advices for founders, for first-time founders or entrepreneurs at the beginning of their journey? Because you are experienced already, experienced founder. So, what
Yeah.
advice can you give to the youngsters?
I mean, generally speaking, I think the biggest lesson, especially for like me and my co-founder, right? Because we come from an engineering background. So you think about building first. But I think the biggest thing is to try to sell something before you build anything. So if you have an idea, the first thing I try to do now is to get like 10 customers on the phone, 10 potential customers, and just, ask them, like, if I build this, will you pay me for it? And if you can't do that, it's probably not worth writing any code and starting to build.
Yeah, that's most common mistake, I think, among the technical founders.
Totally.
That they love to build, they hate to sell.
Yes.
And yeah, I love this quote from Naval: "Learn to sell, learn to build. You will be unstoppable." That's the truth. Can you recommend any particular book or books or podcasts or other materials that had significant influence on your life, on your journey? Doesn't have to be business books.
Okay, well, if it's not if it's not related to business, that's a tough question. I love books. I'm constantly constantly reading. So I think my favorite author of all time is Haruki Murakami. And I think the book I would recommend there is A Wild Sheep Chase, is how I got into Haruki Murakami. And it just, it's like surrealist fiction. It's beautiful. It's philosophical. I'm a huge fan of it. I've reread some of his books, 2 or 3 times. I love the existentialists in terms of like impact on, I guess, how I live my life. So I love Camus and Kafka. And that's also, I think they're also great because they write fiction. So you're getting these philosophical lessons, but it's also like, Kafka is hilarious, and you can just read it as like a fun book. It's enjoyable, but you're also kind of changing the way you see the world. In terms of, something a bit less on the fiction side of things, I recently read a book by Adam Becker, What is Real? It's kind of about like quantum mechanics and the philosophy of the interpretation of the last 100 years of results in quantum mechanics. And that just totally blew my mind. Highly recommend that. It's not like a super technical book. I think that really kind of changed the way I see the world recently. And I think that's what comes to mind at the moment.
Awesome. Yeah, really great recommendations. I need to go back to Murakami because my wife read all of his books and I didn't read any of them. So maybe after your recommendation, I will go back to his books. Yeah, really great recommendations. We will try to put them in the show notes.
I find that engineering friends of mine love one of his books in particular, Hard Boiled Wonderland and the End of the World. So maybe if you're trying Murakami, I'd recommend that one first instead of A Wild Chase.
Yeah, cool.
But they're all good. You can't go wrong.
Where can we find you on the net? How people can reach you and how they can use Kazm? Kazm is easy. Kazm.xyz.
Yes, Kazm is easy. Please check out Kazm.xyz. I'm B Turtel on Twitter, so BTURTEL, and I'm the same on Farcaster. And then I've got all my links in my writing from Linktree /B Turtel as well.
Great. So it was a pleasure for me to have you on the show. Thank you very much and take care. Bye.
Thanks so much for having me.